for our speaker. Our last speech before the lunch break with Mr. Kamran Shain about the transformative potential of blockchain of Mastercard. Please.
Thank you very much. Ladies, gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to all of you. Now, I know I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'll try to make this bright and breezy and hopefully interesting for all of you. My name is Kamran Shain, and I'm currently the Vice President of Blockchain Product Development and Innovation at Mastercard. This one? Okay, thank you. All right. And prior to Mastercard, I was at IBM for a period of 10 years, and I spent the last 3 of those 10 years working very, very actively within the blockchain community at IBM and engaging in a lot of the IBM blockchain engagements. So I'm extremely excited to be here speaking to all of you about the transformative potential of blockchain. Now, we've heard a little bit about blockchain already today. So let me just walk you through what I'm going to be doing. I'll give you a quick overview of blockchain and cryptocurrencies as Mastercard sees it, right? Sometimes it's good to go back and break things down simply just to level set on understanding. We can get lost in the hype a little bit. So we're going to cover that, the basics, just so that everybody's at the same level. Then I'm going to tell you how Mastercard has been approaching blockchain and what are some of the use cases that we think have tremendous potential. And then if time allows, and I hope time does allow, we will go for a little Q&A, okay? Now, first of all, blockchain by the numbers, right? So we all know that there's a lot of hype around blockchain at the moment. Let's put that hype into some context, okay? So first of all, in terms of potential, there are estimates that say that blockchain will be 10% of the global GDP by the year 2020, right? There's interest in blockchain from all quarters. If you look at the region, there's tremendous regional interest in blockchain. In the UAE, there is an initiative from the government in Dubai that every single government transaction has to be on blockchain by 2021. So there's a lot of activity that is happening in this space. And the financial services industry has certainly taken note of this. They own 59% of the blockchain patents that have been registered, at least up until 2017. And 70% of banks around the world that have been interviewed have said that they believe blockchain will eventually transform their business models, right? And then if you look at the amount of money that is being poured into blockchain, and I'm not talking about ICOs, I'm talking about genuine investor money, almost $1 billion was put into blockchain in, startups in 2017 alone. And I think we've crossed that number this year. So this is something that is very, very real. Blockchain used to be something, even in the recent past, people spoke about it as being a promising concept, hype, a technology looking for a use case. It has moved past that. It has moved well past that, and we'll talk about that today. Now, let's just do a quick little level set on blockchain, right? Because we've heard a lot about blockchain. You will hear about how blockchain enables a trustless transaction. You will hear about, well, even extreme things like how blockchain is going to completely revolutionize the financial system, destroy existing players, even remove the need for government in some cases, depending on who you listen to. But let's get past all that hype. Let's look at what blockchain actually is, right? Blockchain, in its simplest terms, is a way to store data in a distributed fashion, okay? And this is not a new idea. What's new is the technology that has allowed this to happen in a way that is actually workable today. So the concept is you have data, instead of being stored in one place, you have multiple copies of the data which are owned by different people, right? What this means is, A, there is a lot of redundancy, so the system is not going to come down because one party goes down. B, because there are multiple parties, there is no central owner, okay? Now, there is a sophisticated mechanism called consensus. This makes sure that every single copy of the database says exactly the same thing, right? And the nature of the database is that once you write something to it, that's it. It cannot be deleted. It cannot be modified. Now, what this means is that blockchain actually can be considered as the single source of truth. because it is distributed. There are multiple copies. It is immutable. Once you write something to it, it cannot be changed. And then all the multiple copies are kept in perfect sync with each other, right? And that is why it lends itself very, very well to cases where you need to prove something. Now, another factor is that blockchain needs to be programmable. Blockchain by itself is not the answer to a business problem. Blockchain combined with other technologies and all the boring stuff that's required to make a business system work, that enables solutions to business problems. And therefore, blockchain needs to be programmable, easily programmable. It needs to be able to talk to other blockchains. It needs to be able to talk to other systems. It needs to be able to participate in business processes. That is where the real value of blockchain comes about. Oh, and one final point here, transparency. So you guys will have heard about, I think a lot of people talk about how blockchain, every single participant is anonymous, so you cannot trace the transactions back to the person who did them. You will hear about how the blockchain is completely open, so that everybody can go and see every single thing that was ever recorded on a blockchain. Like today, you can go and see every single transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, every single transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. This is not true of all blockchains. There are other blockchains out there in which the participant identities are known and in which transactions are recorded with full identification of who did those transactions, and you have the ability to decide who gets to see what data. These are the blockchain networks that are actually seeing usage amongst enterprises. Now, cryptocurrencies. I'm sure all of you know this by now, but it is worth repeating. Cryptocurrencies are not the same thing as blockchain. Blockchain is the technology that enables cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are simply one use case, right? I call blockchain a database. Cryptocurrencies is simply one type of data that can be stored in this database, and it just happens to be the first use case of blockchain that came about. But we're seeing blockchain used for a lot more complicated things these days. Blockchain is being used to record things like letter of credit. It is being used to record passenger manifests on airlines. It is being used to record complete shipment manifests and things like the records of customs reports, for example. So there's a lot that blockchain is being used for. Cryptocurrencies, which we've probably get the most amount of news coverage, are based on what we call public blockchains. So these are the ones where transactions are anonymous. Everything is browsable by absolutely everybody, and it takes a lot of computing power to commit a transaction. There are also non-cryptocurrency based blockchain networks, which we call permission networks, where the identities of the participants are known, where enterprise use cases can really be developed and implemented. Now, what are some of the primary use cases that we're seeing in the market? Now, obviously, payments is an obvious area. But what we've seen so far in payments is a lot of experimentation and exploration. There is definitely potential, but the financial industry does tend to be conservative, and with good reason. We're talking about money. The stakes are high. Regulators have to be taken into account. So this is one promising area that's going to take a little bit of time to evolve, and I will speak about that. But we are starting to see traction in other areas, right? Particularly in the area of supply chain. So blockchain, because of the fact that it enables multiple parties to speak a common language and to agree that what the blockchain says is true, so you don't have to trust the participants, you trust what the blockchain says, that enables supply chain provenance as a use case that is getting a lot of traction. And we see examples of this. So as I like to say that the best blockchain use cases are the ones that don't get a lot of press. Some of you might have heard about the use case that was launched in the US early this year, the Food Trust Network, which is basically a consortium of 9 companies, Walmart, Kroger, Nestle. What these companies are doing is they're using the blockchain to record the production of food from the time it is farmed all the way to the time it is actually bought at a store and consumed. And the reason behind doing that is, if somebody eats a salad and gets sick, then you need to quickly trace which farm did the spinach used to make this salad come from. Blockchain enables you to get to that answer in 2 minutes. Whereas previously, it took 3 to 4 weeks of investigation to find out. You had to throw a whole lot of food away, and you could not prevent the disease outbreak. So that's blockchain, a live blockchain use case being used to deliver real business value. right? We're seeing several other examples of this as well. We've seen examples in trade finance and in supply chain and logistics. You will have heard about the initiative where IBM and Maersk partnered together to launch something called TradeLens, again, earlier in the year. As far as I can see, and what I've been able to determine, there are well over 10 to 15 live enterprise use cases that have gone live in the last 12 to 18 months that are delivering real value today to businesses which don't get a lot of press compared to a lot of the experimentation that's happening in the industry. Okay? Digital identity is another very, very important area. There's a lot of eKYC and digital identity initiatives that are happening around the world and in this region as well. So there's plenty of potential in these areas. Now, what is inhibiting faster adoption of blockchain, right? So blockchain as a technology is maturing rapidly, but there are still some challenges that are preventing full-blown adoption. These challenges will be solved, but it is worth bearing in mind what these challenges are, right? There is still a concern around transaction privacy, right? Private blockchains solve the issue of transaction privacy. But transaction privacy is not solved when it comes to the cryptocurrency-oriented use cases, which is one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why cryptocurrencies haven't really taken off in global usage. But we are starting to see permissioned cryptocurrency projects being announced. As that space develops, maybe this problem will get solved. Performance is another area. Blockchain, because of its nature, its redundant nature, and the fact that every single database is kept in sync, it will always be slower than a system that is not based on multiple copies. However, being slower does not mean that it will never be fast enough. And several efforts are being made to have blockchain work in a way that is faster, in a way that uses less computing power, is friendlier to the environment, and can actually match what today's transaction speeds require, right? Then, of course, there are legal and regulatory hurdles. There are standards and rules. All the things that come into play when you're putting a complex business system together. All of these things apply to blockchain as well. Okay. Now, what's Mastercard been doing with blockchain? So Mastercard realized very, very early on that blockchain is something that has tremendous potential. It can revolutionize the way value is exchanged. It can revolutionize business models. And Mastercard decided to intelligently invest in blockchain. So we've done a number of things. We've made strategic investments. So for example, we've invested in the digital currency group. We have become part of organizations such as the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We have undertaken collaborations with various industry players where we've spoken to them about their business problems. We've explored with them how blockchain can be used to solve those business problems. And we've done a lot of prototypes and pilots internally. I belong to an organization called Mastercard Labs. Mastercard Labs is an organization which does a lot of what we call play with a purpose with new technologies such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. And a lot of the ideation work that we do eventually turns into new products and new innovations that Mastercard can then start giving to its customers. Blockchain is one of these areas. Now, what we've wound up doing, having looked at the market and having seen what our customers were telling us and having seen what other blockchain players were doing, we made the decision more than 2 years ago to build our own proprietary blockchain platform from the ground up, because we had a clear idea of what was needed to facilitate financial transactions and the kinds of transactions we were interested in terms of privacy, in terms of speed, in terms of efficiency, and none of the blockchain platforms out there had what we needed. So we built our own. And in fact, if you look at various news reports, we have more than 80 patents that we have registered, which, depending on which report you read, puts us as number 2 or number 3 behind IBM and Alibaba as the most number of blockchain patents registered. So we've done a lot of work in this space. The platform we've developed is designed to be as fast as a typical Mastercard network would be. It is designed to ensure data privacy, and it is designed to be flexible enough to handle the complexities of payment transactions and other types of transactions that our clients are interested in. And what we've done, in addition to developing this platform, is we've ideated on a lot of use cases. And a couple of these use cases have reached a certain level of maturity where we believe there's a real tangible value. And we've developed these use cases, and we are looking at piloting these use cases with various customers around the world. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of those use cases now. The first use case is cross-border B2B payments. Now, this is a space that sees a tremendous amount of business trillions of dollars of business done every year. It is estimated that the volume of cross-border B2B payments will cross 21 trillion by the year 2020. And unlike other areas of payments, which are more consumer-oriented, this area of payments, because it involves larger payments and business-to-business payments, and the risk factors are higher, this one has not seen that much innovation, right? And you will see a lot of talk about how B2B payments can be completely revolutionized using the power of blockchain, even using the power of cryptocurrencies. At Mastercard, we decided to focus on what are the real problems that are worth solving, and can those problems be solved by blockchain today without the usage of cryptocurrencies, right? So we have an extensive network of banks and merchants. We interviewed them, and we basically identified these 6 areas as areas which are causing real business pain points and are contributing to inefficiency for these actors. And then we workshop with them how blockchain without cryptocurrency, but a private permission blockchain, could be combined with existing payment systems to eliminate these problems and introduce speed, transparency, and cost efficiency into the process, right? So this is a very, very promising use case. We've developed this out, and we think it has tremendous potential. Another use case we think has tremendous potential is proof of provenance, right? Now, whenever you go to buy any item, whether you're buying a diamond at a jewelry store and you're wondering, was this diamond ethically mined? Or you're buying a luxury bag or a luxury brand suitcase and you're wondering, is this genuine? Was this stolen? Was this smuggled into the country? If you're buying medication from a pharmaceutical outlet and you're wondering, was this legally imported? Is this fake medication that I'm taking, right? All of these are real tangible questions, right? And in addition to posing dangers for consumers, they translate into a lot of money lost. $1.8 trillion per year is the cost of the amount of fraud that happens across various supply chains. And this is increasing at the rate of 15% each year. And blockchain is actually a very, very good solution to this. And Mastercard and companies like Mastercard are very, very well positioned to implement solutions like this, because we have the ability to tap into the entire supply chain, including the last mile, which is the point of sale, right? How does blockchain enable this kind of a solution? Well, there are various innovative ways which allow you to take any item, be it medication, be it a diamond, be it a luxury bag, and create a digital cryptographic signature that uniquely identifies it. And you put that signature on the blockchain, and you have that blockchain network shared by all the participants in the supply chain, including the regulators. This enables you to instantaneously, either at the point of sale or at any point in the supply chain, simply scan that product and figure out exactly where it came from, exactly what the provenance of the product is, where was it created, where was it mined, whose hands did it pass through, and when. And if the product is not in the books, if it's not on the blockchain network, then there's a problem that needs to be investigated, right? So this is another extremely promising use case. Now, why Mastercard and blockchain? What makes us uniquely qualified to talk about blockchain? One of the things that is very, very fundamental to blockchain projects that is not talked about that often is that the biggest challenge is not really the technology. The biggest challenge is bringing together a network. Blockchain has value when multiple organizations are participating in one transaction and they agree to use the same ledger, right? I have seen several blockchain projects where one company has decided to build a solution, and they've built a fantastic solution. But then they've been unable to pull a network together. That's challenge number one. Even if they are able to pull a network together, how then do you manage and operate that network? A network business is very different in terms of revenue model, in terms of operational model from any other type of business. Now, Mastercard and companies like Mastercards are network businesses. We have ready-made networks. We know how to do this. So one of the biggest challenges that is associated with blockchain projects, we are a natural fit for solving those challenges. The second thing is, blockchain by itself is not a complete solution to everything, as I said. Blockchain has value when it is intelligently combined with other capabilities. Use blockchain where it makes sense to use blockchain. Use existing capabilities where it makes sense to use existing capabilities. So Mastercard, we believe that combining blockchain with our existing capabilities, such as settlement, et cetera, offers a tremendous value proposition, right? And I'd just like to close on with one of my favorite quotes from a movie, Up in the Air, if any of you have seen it. There's a great line by George Clooney in which he tells an underling, before you revolutionize my business, make sure you understand my business, right? Payments is a business that many, many people are trying to revolutionize, but not enough people really understand how it works. We know how payments works, and we believe we have the right ingredients to make it happen, right? Thank you very much for your time. I believe we're out of time, but I'm available if anybody wants to ask questions offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now we will go to the lunch break, and I would love to announce that Hall A having the lunch bed of منشآت سيودي lunch bed, please.